So preacher was slipping quietly through the woods in between farming communities in northern Louisiana, Duboc and Shiloh. Had a shotgun in his hand, and he was squirrel hunting. Preacher wasn't his name. His name was Thurl Ferguson, but everybody called him Preacher, not because he was some pious, church-going, Sunday school-attending young man. My granddad was a scrapper. My granddad was the sixth of 7 kids, born to Ansel Ferguson, Ansel being the son of a Confederate Georgian infantry lieutenant and enslaver of 20 black Americans from Spalding, Georgia. He had moved to North Louisiana. John Ferguson, the Georgian lieutenant, would be murdered. I think it was 1888. Ansel Ferguson would marry and raise a family. My granddad would wind up being one of the 2 youngest sons who would lead him around after Ansel was blinded in a dynamite accident fishing. He was a talker, a scrapper, and around 1925 he was hunting squirrels in the woods, imagining himself to be his granddad, slipping through the woods at the Wilderness, Virginia. He started hearing voices, adult voices. And so my granddad said he slipped closer, got as close as he dared to get, trying to stay concealed, because the closer he got, he began to recognize one of the 2 men's voices, and he began to realize that they were angry. And when he got close enough to see them, pretty close, he said, he saw that they were armed, and that the 2 armed white men, one that he now recognized, were standing with a pretty quiet, scared-looking black man, standing near a creek. And my granddad understood this was not good. Neither was it good for him to be there. Unsure what to do, he finally decided to run for it. And so my granddad turned, and not really worried about stealth anymore, he ran. He said he didn't get very far when he tripped over some underbrush and went sprawling. He said as he scrambled around trying to find his gun and gather his senses and get himself up and get away, one of the 2 white men who had now heard him, seen him, were on him. And he felt the firm grip of one of the white men, the man that he recognized. He felt his grip on his shoulder and pinned him to the ground. My granddad said he was lying there staring up at this man. His heart was pounding, and he said he was scared to death. The man was gazing at him, and my granddad wasn't sure what he was going to do. And then he said he noticed that the man's gaze relaxed as he recognized him as the son of Ansel Ferguson. And the man, somewhat relaxed, but still firmly, looked my granddad in the eye, and he said, "Oh, it's you, Preacher." He said, "Go on, get out of here." So my granddad got up, got his gun, and was off running as fast as he could go. He got a little ways, and he stopped to catch his breath, and he said he heard the gunshot, and he knew what had happened. And he started running again. He said he was scared to death to talk to anybody. He was scared to death the man might change his mind. And it wasn't long after that after the 8th grade, my granddad, tired of his dad's farm, tired of Duboc, tired of being afraid, I guess, stole one of his dad's pigs, sold it, bought a train ticket, and ran off to his oldest brother, Uncle Coy's house. Uncle Coy being probably in his mid-20s and married. After my granddad got old enough to strike out on his own again, he and his first cousin Joe took off in the middle of the Depression to an emerging lumbering and sawmill community that was popping up in South Arkansas called Crossett, where he would eventually move permanently with my grandmother and raise a family. the significance of that to me during Black History Month is that my granddad, the grandson of an enslaver and Confederate infantry officer, my granddad stumbled upon what some would call a lynching, others would just call straight up murder. And when one of the perpetrators recognized my granddad, he felt comfortable letting him go because he was the son of Ansel, after all, preacher. I love my granddad. And that, when he told me that story, it wasn't done out of anything other than what felt to me as almost like a confession. It's hard to reconcile our past. This isn't about virtue signaling or white shaming. It's about recognizing the reality of what it looked like. Can you imagine being in the Black community between Dubach and Shiloh? We have to recognize and acknowledge the truth of the past. We don't have to sit around and wallow in it, but we have to at least understand that it still has implications today. If we'll accept and deal with the truth can set us free. And only then will we truly reach the full potential that this country has. With a shared history that's hard, but also a shared future that has the potential for so much if we will get out of our own way.